we will not say the following to Iran, and I just don't understand why not. If you do everything we want you to do, no bomb, no Hezbollah, no Hamas, no terrorism, no talk about the Holocaust, no talk about Israel's future, we will then take your security requirements, legitimate ones, seriously, and yes, we'd consider security guarantees. We won't do it. Well, if I were somebody in Iran who was looking to keep the Americans as the great Satan and wanted to drive the bomb, I would say thank you very much. I don't think it's very smart on our part. And with 3 administrations now, we've been in that position. I don't know if it would work. I don't know. But it might permit us to start having a dialogue on some security issues. The President said, I think, very wisely, we'd like to talk with the Iranians about drugs. Iran suffers more about drugs than any other country, possibly except Russia, coming out of Afghanistan. And we have a compatible interest with the Iranians in the future of Afghanistan. We did in 2001, all the way up through the Bonn agreements until we had this incredible speech that talked about an axis of evil. I mean, I'll give you a break. The President has said we'd like to talk to the Iranians about Afghanistan. I wonder whether they'd be able to do it as long as the issue of their security, their legitimate security interests, aren't on the table. Now, lest you think that I am trying to argue an Iranian case, let's go back to what happened with the Soviet Union. Beginning about the middle of the 1960s, certainly with the ABM agreement, we took responsibility for Soviet security. They took responsibility for our security. Still took another 25 years in the Cold War. But I think at least analytically we need to start there. And if we don't, I think we are stuck with the 5 alternatives I've talked about, which means that if they get the bomb, or even if they don't, building a security structure in the Persian Gulf without them would be expensive, but that's where we have to go. I'd like to try the other first.
Thank you. Let's open the floor to questions. If you please state your name and affiliation.
I'm Tom, I'm adjunct scholar here and at the Council of Foreign Relations. Thank you for a lucid and I think necessary presentation. I want to go back to this question of herding kittens, as you so eloquently put it. In his last year as Sentinel Commander, I think General Petraeus made clear in several public events that he had tried without success to do exactly that. That he had tried to nudge the GCC countries into some kind of comprehensive collective thinking about these issues. And finally resorted to what he called bilateral, multilateralism, which he failed to do that. General Petraeus has now moved on to Afghanistan. So what I'm trying to find out is, and in any case, in our system, we don't want generals making policy. We want them to do. So while you were...
At least until they become president.
Right, right. So while you were doing this, while you were thinking about all this, while you were talking, I want to know if you were able to identify the person or the office in the United States government who is thinking about this, who is trying to forge some kind of comprehensive policy that looks beyond the next 6 months and to explore some of these options and issues that you've laid out. Who's in charge of this?
Well, in terms of my own personal conversations, I haven't identified anybody more senior than the Deputy Assistant Secretary. Maybe others have a better understanding of this. The person who needs to be in charge of this is the President of the United States, through the National Security Council, beginning with the National Security Advisor, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense. Not to say, here's what you have to do, but if Hunter is correct, here are my 5 choices. And if we don't find something that is an alternative to straight line where we are now, we're going to be stuck there for a long time. And think of the costs to us, blood, treasure, and opportunity costs. I want somebody to start looking at this, and instead of just having a one-time effort by General Petraeus, which was more or less opaque, to make this a consistent effort by the United States over time, where everybody in the region, all of whom have very, very good antenna, will start detecting that this is where the United States wants to go, is prepared to go, and is prepared to back it up. But unless we do it, unless we take the lead, nobody else can do it. Does it mean that's going to succeed? Of course not. Still herding kittens. But I don't like the alternative, which is having to be out there doing the things, often on an ad hoc basis, a little Iraq, a little Iran, a little Afghanistan, a little Arab-Israeli, as though somehow they are 7 separate issues that don't tie together, which is nonsense. And has always been nonsense. Getting the regional perspective, getting the U.S. government to see it that way is the great challenge. It has to start with the President of the United States.
Yeah, I'm about Breakfast with the Nation magazine. I just wanted to follow up with Tom's question. Isn't that Dennis Ross's job? Well, in my opinion, he would be the very worst last person we'd want to be doing that job, but isn't that what he's supposed to be doing?
Well, I'll beg the question whether he's the last person to want to be doing it. But obviously, somebody in the National Security Council staff is supposed to be doing this. They're supposed to be thinking about it a lot. And I don't detect that. In fact, I'll be even more bold about it. There are a number of people who are involved in a wonderful thing that Gary Sick has created at Columbia University called G2K. Gary was my sidekick when we were in the National Security Council together in 1979, 1981, among other things creating the Carter Doctrine for the Persian Gulf, and Gary was in charge of Iranian affairs. And there are a number of people in this room who are represented in it. One thing I have not been able to detect, and correct me if I'm wrong, whether any of these people have ever been called in by the White House and asked, what do you think? I've worked inside, and I know that you get busy and all that. But when we were doing the Carter Doctrine, we looked to an awful lot of people in the Washington and broader community in order to advise us as to what would work and what didn't work. And so when Jimmy Carter stood up in the Congress in 1980 at the State of the Union and read the stuff I'd written for him, and Brzezinski had written for him, an awful lot of people could claim authorship. So I think that's a responsibility of National Security Advisor and his team to get this work done and to reach out to the incredible amount of talent and experience we have in this country to start this going. This isn't trivial stuff. This is central elements of where we have people fighting and dying right now, where we have all this treasure going. And as the Chinese sit there and shake their heads and say, isn't it a wonderful thing that the Americans are there protecting our oil, we can laugh all the way to the bank.
By the way, for those of you in the overflow rooms, we do have question cards, and you can hand them to interns to bring them into this room.